Good God. I'm amazed that I was able to sit through 128 minutes of dark woke garbage. Because that's what this movie is. It's garbage. It's awful, abysmal, whatever word you want to throw in there, and that blank that associates with these terms. That's what this film is. And I know people might wonder, is this worse than Genesis? I would say so, because at least in Genesis you didn't have these political undertones and so forth. And I'll talk more about that. But as you guess, I did see Terminator Dark Fate. Why did I watch it? I have no idea. Is it a sickness? Probably. Like a sick curiosity. It's like, watching a train wreck. It's something that you have to see for yourself. And after watching this movie, yeah, I feel justified, and thankfully I can see why this movie flopped. And yeah, this film just sucked. Let me talk about the movie first before I go full rant. Okay, woosah. So basically, the film opens up with Sarah Connor's a narration from Sarah Connor, and it kind of cuts back and forth between. Well, it's basically her interview from T2, where she's being interviewed, and a few years after Judgment Day, you see Sarah Connor and you see John Connor at this bar. And I don't know where the fuck this is, Jamaica. I don't know. But you have another Terminator show up, kills John Connor. So in the first 5 minutes, John Connor is killed. And, you cut to the present day. You have this character, Danny, who works at this car assembly plant. And soon enough, she's haunted by this, high-tech, like, I want to get this right because I wrote it down. It's like a nearly indestructible machine called the Rev 9. And he finds her at this plant, and he's trying to kill her, and she's, trying to get out of there with her, brother. And her brother gets killed, and then soon you have this, soldier, this super enhanced, augmented human, Grace. She shows up to get Danny out of there. And as they flee from this unstoppable Rev 9, out of the blue, here comes Sarah Connor. And, along the way, Sarah Connor is helping them. At first, they don't trust Sarah Connor. But Sarah Connor is there, and she talks about how she's getting these sort of mysterious texts from someone she doesn't know, Sarah Connor, to, go to this coordinate and take out, whatever's there, and they trace these coordinates to this remote cabin, which you have the T-800 that killed John Connor in the first 5 minutes. And only this, the Terminator, the T-800 in this, and I'll definitely rant about this, but he's living the normal life. Like, he's looking after this woman and this kid that had, I guess, an abusive stepfather. So the Terminator has a conscience, and he has a beard, which that's the least of it. But the Terminator's name is Carl, and he has a drapery business, drinking Coronas. I'm like, what is this? But, long story short, the T-800 teams up with Sarah Connor and Grace and Danny, and they have to sort of band together, and by the end, take out the Rev 9, and that's where you got the whole last, it seems like 30, 40 minutes of the film. You have the sequences in the plane, and then I guess at the dam, which was kind of hard to tell because it was almost like fucking dark. You can't really see. But that's pretty much the plot. And, like I said, this movie, Dark Fate, it's the perfect way to describe this franchise. Because ever since T3, it's just taken a downward, like a freaking nosedive, kamikaze style. It's been on a downward trend, downward spiral. And this just further proves why, well, Genesis, did that, but this was just the icing on the shit cake. Genesis sucked, but this was worse. And it just further shows why we don't need any more Terminator films. The last great Terminator film was back in 1991, and they should have stopped there. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, when the credits started rolling, that's the end of it. To me, that's the end of the franchise. You didn't need any more. T3, okay, some points I'll give it. As good action. I don't mind Nick Stahl as John Connor. But, and I didn't mind the villain in that. She's no T-1000, that's for sure. But T3, again, I give it the action, I give it Nick Stahl. But way too many times Terminator is a damn joke. Talk to the hand, and it's like, and that's really the start of it, where it really started to go bad. Salvation, I can watch okay, but I haven't seen it in years. But I can watch the film like it's, like an okay time waster. And in Genesis, I saw that in the theater, and that was just awful. It was trash. And the timeline plot, ripping off Back to the Future 2. I was just waiting for Doc Brown to jump in there and, talk about, an alternate 2015 or whatever, 1984. Jai Courtney, Emilia Clarke were awful as Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. Once again, the Terminator being a joke. And I didn't care for the action. At times, bad CGI. Terrible moments where the Terminator is smiling for a mugshot with the song Bad Boys playing in the back. And yeah, that's, it's a shitty movie. And this, again, Dark Fate, is just as bad. Like I said, I do feel it's worse. Let's get to the cast. I mean, okay, let's start off with this character, Danny, who was played by, I'll get her name, Natalia Reyes. I just didn't care for her character. I thought she was one note. There was nothing to... And basically, it's just... Again, like I said, you go back to the first 5 minutes to kill off John Connor. Just to make room for this character. And to make room for, it's not this new threat. It's about this new threat, Legion. It's not Skynet anymore, it's Legion. But there was nothing to this character, Danny. I didn't care for her performance. I didn't care at times, in the action, trying to handle a gun. I just didn't care. I thought she was one note. The character of Grace, again, who's enhanced super soldier from the future. She's sent back, and throughout the film, they try to establish some origin, like there's certain flashbacks to how she became this enhanced soldier. The actress, at times, she was okay, but for the most part, you just don't care. Or maybe it wouldn't be as bad if it wasn't for her Justin Bieber haircut. It's like maybe this character deserves a different movie. I don't know. It's just it seems like at parts she's not bad, but this film just. But anyways, moving on. Sarah Connor comes back. You have an older Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton, and she was just there. I mean, from what I feel, I feel that she was just there at times. I don't know what's up with her voice. Her voice just sound. I don't know if it's just age. From what I understand, that she smokes in real life, so I don't know if that was a factor. But I don't know. I just felt that she was just there, Linda Hamilton. I mean, it's pretty much what you saw in T2. I mean, it's pretty much the same kind of performance, but it's pretty much Grandma Sarah Connor. And yeah, I just felt that Linda Hamilton was just there. I mean, her performance in T2 is, you can't compare it. It's far better. But getting to the Rev 9, the villain of the film, the antagonist, it was nearly indestructible. It's like you can't. The only you have to flee from this guy because you can't destroy him really. But aside from that, played by Gabriel Luna, and I didn't care for this guy. This guy with his sort of one note. I'm trying to think of another word for one note. Bland. He was just a bland villain, and just his body language was bland, his acting was bland, and I just didn't care. Like, this guy just trying hard to be the T-1000, it just doesn't work. Or he's trying so hard with I guess with expressions to be the T-1000, and it just doesn't work. And again, I thought the actor was bland, vanilla, a bland villain. And again, going back to Danny, I thought she was just one note and bland. The character of Grace, the actress didn't do bad, but it's just the film sucks. So she kind of, goes down with the ship. Arnold, he's in the film. Basically, he comes into the second half of the film. Is his performance here worse than Genesis? I would say this is a little bit better, but at the same time, again, you turn Terminator into Corona Carl. Basically, you see the Terminator. Sarah Connor tries to kill him when they first meet, because Terminator killed John Connor in the first 5 minutes. So she wants to kill him, and then 5 minutes later, the Terminator T-800 is passing Coronas. They're sitting outside, having some drinks. T-800's talking about drapes and his business. I'm like, what the shit? This ain't Terminator's Corona Carl. He's pretty much a house dad in this movie. And he's a blue-collar worker. And he works on drapes. And he's outside drinking Coronas. Like, what is this? It's almost, I don't know. But So the cast, for the most part, I just thought, I just like whatever. Now, of course, Tim Miller directed this, who before directed Deadpool, and I can't stand Tim Miller. When this movie didn't do well, Tim Miller going after, or he just, I can't remember if he went after fans or whatever, but James Cameron had a hand in the writing, and James Cameron, I remember saying, it's Tim Miller's movie. But James Cameron, he still had a hand in it. And Tim Miller, again, I can't stand this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a terrible director. And what was he thinking with this movie? Is he trying? It's like he's trying so hard to appease. Um, I don't know what. Is he trying? Is he trying to be woke? Is he woke Miller? That's pretty much what it is. He's just trying to, again, throwing in political undertones and stuff like that. But yeah, Tim Miller, just a very shitty director, and this just further cements that. And James Cameron wants, you still had a hand in this. You can try to separate yourself from this, but you still had a hand in it. Um, Again, 2-hour film, like 128 minutes, and it just felt like forever. Uh, and the action, I guess action, we could talk about that. I didn't really care for the action. A lot of it was just bad CGI. Didn't care for the fight scenes. Uh, like the stuff on the bridge, I didn't really care for. And then towards the end, it seemed, like I mentioned before, it's like it's dark at times. It's hard to tell what's going on, at least for me. But just the sequences on the plane, and then the final act where it's at the Hoover Dam, I believe, and I just a lot of bad CGI, and yeah, just whatever. That's just how I felt about the action. It's just whatever. Like I saw Genesis is just the same, just as like the same as Genesis. It's like whatever. But it's been that way since what, T3, where it's just bad CGI. And at least in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the whole final act was badass, and you had Arnold, what was it, like a minigun, and he's blowing up the police vehicles, and like you felt it, like it was more organic, and they used practical explosions and practical bullet hits, and just everything now just seems so fake in regards to action. And yeah, I just didn't care for the action. But didn't care for the dialogue much. So yeah, this film is just. I'm trying to think what else I could talk about. I was just sort of reading some of the reviews on IMDb. But yeah, with this overall, I guess with this movie, because I don't know what else to talk about. I mean, we know it flopped, and thank God it did. But I guess overall with this movie, Terminator Dark Fate, once again, it perfectly defines the franchise. Because this film, and I'm gonna keep going back and forth. Is it just as bad as Genesis, or is it worse? I think I'm starting to lean towards worse because of the political undertones and this cast I just didn't care for. I didn't care for the cast in Genesis either, but this I felt was worse. And again, going back on the cast, I didn't really care for the cast. Even Linda Hamilton, she was just there, you know, being Grandma Sarah Connor. I didn't care for the character of Danny. Grace, that's how I felt. And, just meh. Okay, but at the same time, you just don't care. You could take or leave it. The villain, the Rev 9, Gabriel Luna, bland actor, didn't care for. He doesn't have a presence. Robert Patrick has a presence. Robert Patrick, he has the body language, and he really didn't say much. He didn't have to say much. He had the body language, he had the expressions. And he was a far better villain. This guy, again, he's bland, he's vanilla, one note, whatever term you want to use. And again, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the T-800 being a Corona Carl in this movie was just terrible. And wasn't there like one scene in this film, I swear, there's a piece of dialogue where Terminator talks about, something about butterflies. Like I told her to go with this. I'm butchering it, but I'm sure it's something to do with drapes. He's talking about his business. And I'm like, what happened? But Tim Miller, you thought this was a great idea? What the fuck are you smoking? Again, Terminator just now fucking with drapes. Having Coronas. What is this? Shitty direction by Tim Miller. Shitty writing. Bad action. That's forgettable. With bad CGI. A plot that I didn't care for. And you make the first two movies pointless. And the first 5 minutes. That's all it took. In the first 5 minutes, you kill off John Connor. And right then and there, you make the previous two movies pointless. It's like, the studios, it's kind of a sick game where they know how much we appreciate the first two movies. And we hold them in high regard. And they see it as, oh, let's take a big shit on that. In the first 5 minutes, let's kill off John Connor. So we make those stories, we make those stories pointless. And mission accomplished, I guess. Every time I'm thinking about this movie, I get more frustrated. If that was your goal in mind, then you accomplished your mission. But that seems to be the MO in regards to franchises and properties today. It's let's kill off characters, whether it be a John Connor or a Luke Skywalker or a Han Solo. Let's give Rocky cancer. Let's, whatever, I can't even talk. Whatever examples you want to use. It's their MO to kill off these characters and to make stories pointless. So they can make room for this new threat, Legion, and basically a new John Connor, but it's it's this Hispanic, a car assembly worker that we don't care about. And it's pretty much if you think about it, it's pretty much a remake of the first two movies. We've seen this before. So, I mean, I don't know what I can add. Got fucking crud in my eye. That's this movie. It's fucking crud in my eyeball. And at the end of the day, this movie is hot garbage. It's a POS. Piece of shit. And this franchise is done. This franchise is terminated. And no more. Arnold, I don't know what to say. You don't have... Here's my thing. Arnold, you don't have a lot of years left. And you've had a great career. But you're wasting your years, like, you know, what years you have left, you're wasting it on this bullshit. The same goes for Stallone, and that's another topic. Arnold, stop playing Terminator. We don't need any more. Honestly, again, like I said before, T2 was the end of the franchise to me. Didn't need T3. Didn't need Salvation, to be honest. I mean, even though I can watch the film, you didn't need that. Definitely didn't need Genesis. And you more so didn't need this. And Arnold, you're going to be what, 72, 73, 73 this year? And you're just wasting away, you know, in your later years with this bullshit garbage. And again, you're too old to play this Terminator. Yeah, I'll just sort of wrap up here because I'm going to go on and on. At the end of the day, this movie is abysmal, awful. It could be just as bad or worse as Genesis, or worse than Genesis. You know, it could go either way. And, you know, with this film that flopped and no one saw the movie, no one cared, and that should say something because no one cares to see more Terminator films. And isn't that something though? You bring back Linda Hamilton after all these years, finally, and this movie comes out and it's like a fart in church. And that's what this film is. It's a big fucking fart in church. So, that's all I have. Fuck this movie. Fuck Terminator Dark Fate. It can kiss my ass. It can kiss my dark ass. Dark woke. To hell with dark woke.